Space weather tells us we have our solar wind today at 302 kilometers per second. We're down here with our planetary K index as a 1. It jumped up yesterday from the 0 to a 1, was there for a good portion of the day, and that's where we stand at the moment. Our X-class flares, very minimal, 1% chance and 20% chance we're going to have some sort of M-class flare, so that's very minimal. In preparations, there is a lunar eclipse that's going to be taking place this coming Saturday, the 10th, and if you're in the United States, the Pacific side of the planet, the western side of the United States and Canada, you'll be able to see these events. Should be pretty fascinating to check out what it is. Right now you could see that the sun is quiet. The face of the sun is peppered with spots, but none of them is actively producing flares. Since yesterday, the sun's X-ray output has flatlined. And for those who have seen in the sky that little bright spot out there next to the moon, well, that's Jupiter. And if you're out last night, you got a good view of it. Said the close encounter between Jupiter and Moon was a knockout, literally. You can see a couple of people laying here on the ground. They weren't knocked out by the moon, but looking at the moon. All right. Astrologically, we are still in the sign of Sagittarius, which is the philosophical thought, expansion. We're also during a Mercury retrograde, which means during these expansive times, our communication can sometimes be a bit confused. So these are times just to kind of double think and double check what you're saying. And as you can see here, the moon is in Taurus. Now, Taurus is the sign that is all about intuition, listening to the inner teacher, learning to differentiate between the voices and the voice. The voice is the voice of God, the true voice of spirit that is out there. And we cannot be in denial that there are other voices out there, because there are. We hear about them all the time, and we need to learn to listen to know what is the voice of God we listen to, and we need to know that the other voices are voices we don't listen to because they don't really bring us anything but bad news sometimes, all right? Well, sometimes they bring good, depends. They could be angels, things of this nature. So we just have to learn to differentiate. That's the important part. Just like in life, when you go through life, there's lots of people that are talking to you. You can see a lot of them. Some of them have good advice, some don't. Same thing with the other worldly energies. Just because you can't see them and they're talking to you doesn't mean they have your best intent in mind, and therefore you have to learn to differentiate between the voices. All right, and here we go. Current moon phase, as you can see, we're in a waxing moon, 92% full. We're just about there, getting ready for that Saturday full moon. And our dream spell for today is the yellow planetary star. So we're at a yellow tone day. Yellows are the color of ripening. Planetary tones are tones of manifestation. And the star is all about shining, beauty, and elegance. The guide for the day, the warrior, asks questions. So the phrase for today is, I perfect in order to beautify, producing art. I seal the store of elegance with the planetary tone of manifestation. I am guided by the power of intelligence, and because on the grid the energies sync up, today is called the Galactic Activation Portal Day, which is an extra opportunity for us to really get in sync with the areas and the energies as they are conjuncting and interacting with each other. Now, in the Gregorian calendar, it is Wednesday, December 7th, 2011. So there you have it. That's our cosmic weather for today. Now, our first story we're going to go to is a story that comes to us. Let me see, I have a little bit of a lead-in on this story. It says the father of free software. Let me fix this for you. The father of free software philosophy spoke to RT on evil developers, spying social networks, and the almost legitimacy of anonymous hacks, and the condition under which he would take a proprietary program and $1 million. Stallman is the man behind the concept that every computer program must be free for users to study and modify as they want. This is the only way to ensure that by using the software, users do not compromise their human rights, he says. Free software literally gives you freedom in the areas of computing. It means you can control your computing. It means that users individually and collectively have control over their computing. And in particular, it means that they can protect themselves from malicious features that are likely to be proprietary software, he told RT. So here we go. This is Stallman. This article comes to us via Infowars.com, coming to them from RT. So here we go. It's coming a long way to get to you. Enjoy.
Do social networks like Facebook or G+ give more personal freedom, or do they take it away?
Well, those too mistreat the users. For instance, by requiring users to give their real names. That's a policy that puts some people in danger, so you shouldn't use them. But Facebook does many other bad things as well. Facebook does massive surveillance. If there is a like button in a page, Facebook knows that who visited that page. And it can get the IP address of the computer visiting the page, even if the person is not a Facebook user. So you visit several pages that have like buttons, and Facebook knows that you visited all of those, even if it doesn't really know who you are.
How does free software promote personal freedom?
Free software literally gives you freedom in the area of computing. It means that you can control your computing. It means that the users individually and collectively have control over their computing. And in particular, that means they can protect themselves from the malicious features that are likely to be in proprietary software. Now, this doesn't automatically give you freedom in some other area of life. To get that, you have to fight for it. But human rights support each other. In an age where a lot of what we do with computers, if we don't have freedom in our computing, that makes it harder for us to defend or fight for freedom in other areas. So you lose one set of human rights, and it's harder for you to keep the others. I started the free software movement in 1983 as a campaign for freedom. During the 90s, the GNU plus Linux system was catching on, and a lot of the people who started using it appreciated it only for its practical advantages, and they didn't think in terms of freedom. As a result, in the free software community, there were two different political positions. There was the free software movement, those of us who said, we are doing this for freedom, we insist on freedom, and there were the other people who said, we like the software, but we don't care about the ethics. So there was a debate between these two camps. But in 1998, the other camp coined the term open source so that they could cause us to be forgotten. They figured that they were more numerous, that they could say this, that they would never raise an ethical issue, and then we wouldn't be noticed. And it almost worked. The reason it hasn't worked is that we in the free software movement have pushed very hard to make our views heard. So open source stands for those other views. It talks about basically the same, more or less the same software, but with a totally different philosophy. And the philosophy is where I disagree with it.
If free software is suddenly enforced in the world, wouldn't it cause a massive cash outflow from related industries and halt innovation?
Who cares? What good is a so-called industry that's creating tools to subjugate people? I won't use the non-free software at all. I dedicate my effort to getting away from it. So if they stopped making it, that would be great. I wish they would. I hope for the day when they won't make non-free software anymore.
What do you think of the anonymous hackers group? Do you think what they do is justified by the targets of their attacks?
The anonymous protests, for the most part, work by having a lot of people send a lot of commands to a website, and it can't handle so many requests. This is equivalent to how a crowd of people going to the door of a building and having a protest on the street. It's basically legitimate. And when people object to this, let's look at who they are and what they do. Usually there are people who are doing much worse things.
And now a question from a Facebook user, Federico Capuano. What do you think about the phenomenon of open wireless community networks, the grassroots alternative to wireless access coverage developed by municipalities?
Well, I think that they theoretically can be a very good thing, assuming that you can run them without proprietary software. And if I needed a proprietary program to connect to one, I wouldn't connect to one. But the big question is, will they be gatewayed to the internet? Because if they're not, then they're not going to do much good for you. You know, if there's a community network in your community and you can connect to the computers of the other people who live near you, well, how many of them do you know? And how many of the people you know live near you?
Not so many.
Exactly. So the point is that a localized network that, say, deals with your town, it won't do you much good.
A user named Ivan Marjanovic asks, what do you think about carrier IQ and collection of user data by mobile operators in general?
Well, this is an example of malicious features in non-free software. Those mobile phones are being run by non-free software, so it's no surprise that they have malicious features in them. The most commonly used non-free programs do.
Do you think USA is becoming hostile to competition and innovation as the companies like Apple and Microsoft are gaming the system?
I have to point out that innovation is not my highest value. Human rights are my highest value. So I don't want to get into the sort of dialogue that treats innovation as if it were the primary goal. But to some extent, with software patents, the U.S. has become a dangerous place for software development, including innovative software development, because when a program is innovative, that means it has some new ideas in it. But it also has lots of well-known ideas in it. A large program combines thousands of ideas. So if you've got some new ideas and you want to use them, in order to use them, you've got to combine them with a lot of other ideas that are well-known. And if you're not allowed to do that because those other ideas are patented, you can't use your new idea.
Do you think there's a place for patents in less software tech, like normal engineering?
There should not be patents in the software field at all. Patents should not affect software. It's dangerous to software developers and users to allow patents to interfere with them.
By the way, how much control should the USA have over the internet?
No more than anyone else.
Which is?
Well, basically,
Would there be any control at all?
I don't think it would be safe to have any global control over the internet, because we could predict that that global control would work for the empire of the megacorporations and it would attack human rights.
What can be done to make the commercial world use freeware and shareware?
What would I do to convince companies to use free software? I hope that they will for their sake. But I don't push hard to convince companies to switch to free software because it's not efficient use of my time. If somebody's not inclined to listen to me, it's better if I speak to someone else.
Why is Microsoft always plagued by viruses and faults?
Well, it's to a large extent because of some design decisions that they've made that created vulnerabilities. I don't know why they made those decisions, but I can't say whether they made those decisions for the sake of vulnerability. I'm sure that they heard the arguments that those decisions would lead to vulnerabilities because people have known that for a long time.
What pushes people to download products without permission of its authors? Like, is it stinginess or software?
I have no idea, but I disagree with the usual views about that. Why is it bad to use an unauthorized copy of a proprietary program? Because it's proprietary. So an unauthorized copy is almost as nasty as an authorized copy of the same program. They're both nasty because they're proprietary. The users don't have control over them. If they pay the developer, that makes it worse because they're rewarding this delinquency. That's why the authorized copy is worse. But they're both bad because they're both proprietary software. If you want freedom, you have to get rid of them both because they both control you. So when people think it's just an issue of money, then they might think that running the unauthorized copy is good because it's a way to save money. Or someone else who thinks the most important thing in the world is for this evil developer to get more money would say the unauthorized copy is bad because the evil developer doesn't get money that way. But I don't care about the money one way or the other. I just say this evil developer shouldn't be making proprietary software because it's taking away people's freedom. And you shouldn't be using that software because it would take away your freedom. And I don't use that software. If you offered me an authorized copy and you wanted to pay me $1 million to take it, I still wouldn't take it unless I could throw it away immediately. Yeah, if I could take it and take the $1 million and throw away the program, then I would say yes.
What's your opinion about the rise in influence of the so-called pirate parties in Europe? Do you think they will bring a change?
I more or less agree with their positions, and I'm glad to see that these issues are becoming election issues. I don't necessarily endorse pirate parties because to do that, I'd have to know what all the other parties are, and these are not the only issues I think are important. For instance, putting in a limit on global heating is extremely important. Many pirate parties don't take a position on that. So I might choose to support a Green Party instead.
Do social networks like Facebook or G+ give more personal freedom, or do they take it away?
Well, those two mistreat the users. For instance, by requiring users to give their real names. That's a policy that puts some people in danger, so you shouldn't use them. But Facebook does many other bad things as well.
This is the UFO News with Joshua Poet.
All right, this is Josh. This is the UFO News. Very good report there on computers. I know it's been the big discussion. I have one Linux computer. I also have the other, so I kind of keep them separated. But I see the value of using both. They definitely have different things to offer. All right, our UFO news for today. First story comes to us from Educating Humanity. Says it's about celebrity sightings from Laura Eisenhower to Victoria Beckham, the unending mystery of UFOs. Though instances of UFO sightings are not very rare these days, they often bag big headlines either for the uniqueness of such instances or the people who claim to have witnessed them. One of the most written about UFO sightings this year was said to have been witnessed by none other than Victoria Beckham. The former Spice Girl claims that she saw an unidentified moon-like object in October near her Los Angeles home. UFOs, or unidentified flying objects, have always been a big mystery for scientists, astronomers, and common man alike. The British Ministry of Defence released files on UFO sightings from time to time, but the scientific community has never been able to come up with convincing explanations on such occurrences, and any unexplained sightings always grab headlines and public attention just because of the sheer eminent element of mystery attached to them. A good number of UFO sightings were reported from across the world over the last few years. According to experts, there is a 65% rise in UFO sightings reported over the past 2 years. In August, UFOs were reportedly spotted in Jerusalem, New York, and Texas, and even several areas in the UK. In September, a research team from Sweden claimed that they found the remains of a UFO beneath the Baltic Sea. Earlier in August, thousands of radio listeners could hear BBC sports presenter Mike Sewell encounter with a UFO. Sewell, who works for Radio 5 Live, spotted a huge disc-shaped aircraft hovering above the Herefordshire countryside on his way to work early in the morning. Sewell shared his experience. It wasn't an aeroplane, and it wasn't a helicopter, certainly of a kind of, and I dread saying this shape. It had several lights flashing all around. He described what he saw. You can go on. You can see there's much more to the article. I'm going to leave that for you to read. Our next story comes to us from Roger Marsh over at UFO Digest. Reports of dark triangle UFO over Florida. A Florida witness driving over the Timuquana Bridge in Jacksonville's west side reports watching a dark triangle UFO between 300 to 400 feet in the air, moving 40 to 60 miles per hour, according to December 6, 2011 testimony from the MUFON database. I observed an apparent dark triangle about the size of a plane, with 3 uniform lights, one at each corner of the triangle, but no flashing FAA lights, the witness stated. I am quite used to seeing many jets and planes regularly, as I live in close proximity to Naval Air Station Jacksonville, and this was not a plane. The object was flying very close to ground level. I was flying at an altitude maybe 300 to 400 feet at a speed of 46. It was flying at about 40 to 60 miles per hour. I noticed it approaching from the north, which was to my left, and as I headed east on 103rd Street, almost to the bridge, the triangle slowly flew overhead to the south, and I lost sight of it through the trees as it began to cross the bridge. Witness does not feel it was a conventional craft. Go on and read the rest of this article. Got it linked up at our page. Our next story here. Extraterrestrials have been interested in Earth's gold deposits. Greed may not only be present in humankind, but when someone wants to learn about it, looking at the sky and finding little green men might be a good idea. A UFO Science and Consciousness Conference organizer in Johannesburg said that aliens have been stealing gold on Earth for thousands of years. Conference organizer Michael Tellinger revealed that some dark forces have been on Earth, and governments around the world are puppets and instruments of the implementation of the will of a small group of individuals. He added that the royal political bloodline goes back thousands of years. Tellinger said that aliens went down to Earth around 300,000 years ago to get gold, cloned themselves, and made contact to world leaders since then. He pointed out that South Africa is the center of the aliens' gold searching activity because of its richness in diamonds and gold deposits. According to Tellinger, South Africa is where all life started, in the place of the cradle of humankind. He said that they have evidence proving that there was physical life before humans, which were African knowledge keepers and custodians of secret knowledge. His claim on extraterrestrials were not the only interesting ideas brought about in the forum. The great-grandmother of former U.S. President Dwight D. Eisenhower alleged that world leaders have encountered aliens and even signed treaties with them every 10 years. She said the government has been working with extraterrestrials for many years. Bigfoot expert Lloyd Pryor discussed about a strange-shaped skull that believed to be not from human, or hypnotist Jennifer Welsh told the crowd about the crystal skulls. The event featured 13 international speakers. Now, certainly the idea of extraterrestrials and gold have been around a long time. All you need to do is look into your Bible to see that in the book of Genesis that there was gold and beryllium. And the question that comes to mind is, if God can create everything as we understand God can, then why would God need or be interested in gold and beryllium? And why would the Bible make a special reference to the planet having gold and beryllium? Unless, of course, it really wasn't God that they were telling the story about, but these were extraterrestrials who were claiming to be something that they weren't. And that's part of the mix, that there have always been those around who have tried to claim a sense of divinity when they really weren't that, and that is part of the problem that we still face these days with beings claiming these sort of things. Now, our next story comes to us from Huliq, HULIQ.com. Is becoming ground control to Major Tom these days, with news from NASA that the Kepler telescope confirms first alien planet found in habitable zone, while the medium of art is helping to confirm the Project Phoenix idea of using radio telescopes to search for alien life and messages. According to NASA, planet-hurling Kepler spacecraft has confirmed the discovery of its first alien world and its host star habitable zone, stated an NBC.com report after NASA broke the startling news December 5th, while adding how Kepler found more than 1,000 new exoplanet candidates. Well, if these discoveries are confirmed, it would quadruple the current tally of worlds known to exist beyond our solar system, which recently topped 700, In turn, ufologists here at Brace Point confirm another discovery that's been explored in the realm of art. And with such films as 1976 cult movie The Man Who Fell to Earth, with an argument for duplicate beings, there are infinite universes where infinite number of extraterrestrial human beings, and in fact an infinite number of beings identical to you, now exist, right? Ufologist Paul Davies in his 1995 book, Are We Alone? All right, very interesting indeed. So what they're making reference to is there are beings on Earth who are from other worlds. Can you believe that? Well, certainly around here, we understand that to be the truth because that is what we talk about all the time. All right, there you go. That's it. That's our UFO news for today. I'm going to jump away to our song Wake Up, and when I get back, we've got more news and information. Stay tuned.
What if our government was responsible for some of the greatest crimes against this nation? Would you really want to know? These are big questions, but these questions deserve answers. It's time to demand the truth.
People should not be afraid of their governments. Governments should be afraid.
9/11 was an inside job. Kennedy was killed by the CIA. Jimmy Carter saw a UFO. Answers to secrets you need to know. So wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up. The evidence is overwhelming. Step past your fear, take a look. Illuminati lies keep growing, but they're losing from your eyes. And wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up. What would our founding fathers say if they were alive today? Must be turning in their graves. Redcoats are coming, big brother's watching. Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up. What if I land and two if I see? And I and the opposite shore will be ready to ride and spread the alarm through every Middlesex village and farm. Whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or abolish it. When a long train of abuses and usurpations, pursuing invariably the same object, evinces a design to reduce them under absolute despotism, it is their right, it is their duty to throw off such government and to provide new guards for their future security. Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up. Patriots arise. It's time to demand the truth.
Alrighty then. It's time to demand the truth. That song's called Wake Up. I know you've heard it every day. I play it every day, and I'm going to continue to play it every day because there's always new people listening, and I want to make sure everybody wakes up. That song is a good little summary of what's going on in the world from my perspective. I'm the one who wrote the song, so there you have it. All right, first story we have here comes to us, well, from the front page of Yahoo. Experts stumped by ancient Jerusalem markings. Jerusalem, mysterious carvings made thousands of years ago have recently and recently uncovered in an excavation underneath Jerusalem have archaeologists stumped. Israeli diggers who uncovered a complex of rooms carved into the bedrock in the oldest section of the city recently found markings. 3 V-shaped cuts next to each other in the limestone floor of the rooms, about 2 inches long. There were no findings. There were no finds to offer any clues pointing to the identity of who made them or what purpose they served. The archaeologists in charge of the dig know so little that they have been unable to even posit a theory about their nature, said Eli Shakaran, one of the 2 directors of the dig. The markings are very strange and intriguing. I've never seen anything like them. All right, let's see if we can take a close-up look at these markings here. There we go. These are the markings that they said they have found in the floors. Most interesting indeed, and of course they don't know what those are. If you do, let us know and we'll pass the message on to the powers that be, or just go to the article and let the people over there know what's going on. Maybe you have an idea that they don't know about. That's a good possibility. All right, moving right along. Our next story here, this comes to us from Al Jazeera TV. Now, you've heard about all the stuff that's going on over in Fukushima. But the question is, are the kids in the schools learning about what's actually going on in their own country? According to this article, it appears otherwise. Check this out.
The early morning glow over Fukushima. Living near the damaged nuclear power plant, Tokiko Noguchi must guard her 11-year-old daughter from the unseen threat of radiation. While outside the 20-kilometer exclusion zone, levels remain extremely high here. So when the Education Ministry released these textbooks aimed at teaching about radiation, Fukushima's parents hoped it would shed light on the crisis. They soon discovered not one page addresses the severity of the contamination. Instead, children like in this test class in Saitama, where the textbooks are being tried out, are taught that radiation can be found naturally in the environment, emitting often, quote, harmless rays, not unlike those of light. Kids are also told the risk of being hurt by it is far smaller than smoking or dying of old age. Parents and teachers in Fukushima say not only are some facts incorrect, but they accuse the ministry of siding with power plant officials, who they say is downplaying the extent of the catastrophe.
They don't give us the full truth, and that causes more people to panic. Children need to be taught both sides, the good and the bad, so that they can learn to think with their own minds.
The Education Ministry has made missteps in the past. Last year it issued this textbook celebrating the benefits of nuclear power. It stressed how nuclear reactors were safe and could withstand a major disaster like a massive tsunami. The textbook was recalled after the Fukushima disaster. Education officials defend their curriculum, saying it is free of bias and simply a starting point for children.
Teachers and students have no knowledge of this subject. That is why it is our first priority to teach the basics. It's up to schools to take further steps if they wish.
Saitama's middle school certainly is. They brought in experts who not only talk about Fukushima, but also about how to avoid radioactive fallout. The Education Ministry says Saitama's extra effort is rare and isn't reflective of most schools. It plans to press ahead with distributing its basic texts, saying teaching about radiation's dangerous aspects can come later. Steve Chow, Al Jazeera, Saitama, Japan.
You know, I think I remember hearing Fox News give a report where they were trying to say that, don't worry, there's radiation naturally in the air. A little bit's not bad for you. So they pushed the same thing over here. You know, the problem with the world are there are too many lies going on. There's too much coddling. And the coddling is causing problems. The lies and the coddling. People coddle their kids and they figure they can't tell them the truth. So the kids grow up not knowing the truth. And then they repeat the same mistakes that were done before because they were coddled and never told really what happened and how to avoid those things. And here in the United States and around the world, we got media outlets lying to people. So people don't know the truth. So they grow up not knowing what's really going on. It's a shame what is taking place in this world and how history is being rewritten by those in the mainstream media that are out there telling the lies to suit their particular agendas. It's like it's dumbing down society. And society on one hand are victims to this, but at this point in the game, society needs to know that the powers that be aren't going to bring them the information they need, and they need to go search for it on their own. And if this point in the game, if you're somebody that's in your 60s or 70s and you still don't know this, it's because you don't want to know. It's because you prefer to keep yourself uninformed because you are afraid that knowing the truth is going to be too painful. But I assure you, knowing the truth would be much better, because if you have kids, if you have grandkids, you're going to want them to grow up in a better world. And if you're turning a blind eye because you think you're too old to know how to do anything about it, then you're only hurting your kids and your grandkids. So it's the responsibility of every person on this planet to step up to the lies and injustices. It's the only way that they are going to be eradicated and truths are going to replace them. It's only when people stand up. Remember, there's a saying, bad things happen when good people say and do nothing. And this is a world filled with good people who are saying and doing nothing because they're afraid. And you got the governments of the world continue their war on terrorism, which is aimed only at making you afraid of the things that they're trying to do. A war which they say has no ending. So they want to scare you indefinitely. That's what they want to do. They want to scare you indefinitely so that you don't do the things that will protect yourself or your family. You'll just keep listening to their lies so they can continue to get the money for the lies that they're telling. It's all a big sick system that needs to be fixed. Now, here's a story. This comes to us from RT. It's called Occupation Nation, and it's about the police officers, United States cops, how they protect and serve the 1%, a group that they're not really a part of. Listen to this.
American anti-corporate Occupy protesters are being allowed back into a New Orleans park after getting permission from a federal judge. A lawmaker has already called for an investigation into claims of police misconduct in dealing with activists. The movement shows no signs of dying down across America, with thousands demonstrating nearly 3 months after the first protests in New York. And the heavy police presence isn't being scaled back either, as Marina Portnoy reports.
When the very people employed to protect Americans leave thousands with bruised bodies, burned eyes, locked behind bars, tasting their own blood, the land of the free adopts an entirely new image.
A travesty to democracy, the way the police are totally suppressing the people's rights to assemble and to protest. And I joined the force to protect people's rights to assemble and protest, not to squash them.
In recent months, U.S. police officers have made an enemy of those citizens using their freedom of speech to protest against corporate greed and corrupt politics. Today's breed of American law enforcement is dressed in riot gear and armed with heavy weaponry, body armor, flash bangs, tear gas, and lethal projectiles. As tens of thousands of Americans assemble, cops have been accused of creating confrontation, not diffusing it.
There is no honor in this! There is no honor in this!
She's a journalist! A level of police brutality so bad, a former Marine sergeant couldn't stay silent.
You want to go fight, go to Iraq and Afghanistan!
A war veteran who survived 2 tours in Iraq was seriously injured by local police officers using flash grenade canisters against Occupy protesters.
What's your name? What's your name?
24-year-old Scott Olson was hospitalized with serious head injuries. In Seattle, the oldest victim of the police-turned-paramilitary was an 84-year-old activist temporarily blinded by pepper spray. The United States, which bills itself as the pillar of international law and democratic freedoms, has consistently placed itself on the world stage as the self-appointed beacon of moral authority.
We call upon the Iranian government to abide by the international obligations that it has to respect the rights of its own people. Instead of respecting the rights of his own people, Gaddafi chose the path of brutal suppression. Innocent civilians were imprisoned and in some cases beaten.
Meanwhile, at home, As dissent in America grows louder, many say Washington's glass house of hypocrisy has shown beautiful symmetry.
They want people to be able to have freedom of speech, but they don't want that freedom to interfere with them in any way, to be in any way disruptive or challenging to them.
The line that traditionally separated U.S. soldiers from civilian law enforcement has arguably been erased, replaced by what's being dubbed the American militarization of police tactics. Tactics which reflect major cracks in the foundation of American principles such as democracy and human rights. Incidentally, the same principles the U.S. continues to teach all other countries about. Marina Portnaya, RT, New York.
So, you can certainly understand that the United States, the administrators of the United States are hypocrites. They go through the world preaching the goodness that's supposed to happen, but in their own country, they're demonizing their own citizens and beating on them. There's no morality in there. Obama doesn't have any morality. The Bush family has no morality. This is one scam after another, folks. And it's just irritating that every day I hear people defending the criminals. Every single day I hear people defending the criminals. When is that going to stop? Every day I hear comments from people about being the devil's advocate. When are people going to stop being the devil's advocate and being God's advocate? How about that one? I never hear somebody saying to me, well, I'm going to be God's advocate on this one. They always go the opposite way. When is that going to stop? When are we going to stop chasing after the bad and the evil? And when are we going to start doing the good and the kindness and doing the works of that God would have us do as opposed to the works of the devil and what the devil would have us do? We got to pay attention to who we're listening to. It's very, very important. We're getting into some crucial times. Now I'm going to follow this story up with this information over here. This is something that is planned, and I hope that every single American citizen pays good, close attention to this story here. Exclusive. Government activating FEMA camps across U.S. This is over at InfoWars. InfoWars has received a document originating from Halliburton subsidiary KBR that provides details on a push to outfit FEMA and U.S. Army camps around the United States. Entitled Project Overview and Anticipated Project Requirements, this document describes services KBR is looking to farm out to subcontractors. The document was passed to a state government employee who wishes to remain anonymous for obvious reasons. KBR's call for FEMA camp bids arrives soon after the Senate overwhelmingly passed the National Defense Authorization Act, which permits military to detain and interrogate supposed domestic terrorist suspects in violation of the Fourth Amendment and posse comitatus. Further than that, Section 1031 of the National Defense Authorization Act bill declares the whole of the United States as a battlefield and allows American citizens to be arrested on U.S. soil and incarcerated in Guantanamo Bay. There's a number of civil liberties groups come up with this in opposition, and one of them is the Japanese American Citizen League. And one of the things that they are reminding is that during World War II, there were thousands of Japanese Americans of Japanese descent that were put in prison camps and were imprisoned for up to 3 years during World War II. So this is a group that has stepped up. This article is up. I would like you to go and read through this article. It's a very, very important to know what's going on. You can go all the way back, as you can see here, to Oliverville North, lying about Rex 84, which is one of the programs, part of the continuity government that they have out there. And let's go to this here now and listen to this. This kind of ties together what I was saying.
Further, we're joined by Mr. Rodney Shakespeare, who's with us on the line from London. He is a political analyst. Sir, welcome to the program. It seems like the U.S. should get used to the Occupy movement, doesn't it?
Though, is getting nervous about, indeed, vicious towards the protesters. The army is being readied to move in. A law will allow the USA government to disappear anybody, and there's fascism for you. They may censor the internet, and there are demands for war to hide the true situation. And the reason for all this is, in fact, the overall economic situation. And if you start in Europe, where the euro could be weeks, even days away from collapse, with the resultant sovereign debt of Europe being defaulted, that will mean billions, even trillions of payments by the USA banks, which hold the derivatives or the insurance, but they don't have the money to pay. And recently, the Bank of America moved 70 trillion, I will say that again, $70 trillion worth of derivatives to a Bank of America commercial holding bank sub-company, which is a government insured. Now, 70 trillion is larger than the global economy. So you put it all together, the USA is getting very, very nervous that the whole thing is about to blow up. And of course, at that point, the protests and demonstrations in the USA will multiply by a factor perhaps of 3 or 5. And they are getting ready to go in with a fascist suppression.
And what about the tactics used by the police? We've seen it across California and its capital city, LA, and elsewhere, such as Philadelphia and so on and so forth. And now people are back out again, even in D.C. You think this may have aggravated the protesters and made them even more persistent?
Well, the protesters are actually representing not just a deep unease, but a nasty reality of 20 to 22% unemployment overall, 40% unemployment amongst youth groups, blacks and Hispanics. And as for the homelessness, it is hidden. The homelessness is now out in the woodlands, out in the scrubland, away from the general perception. But it is rising very, very fast, as also the number of people who are on food stamps. So it is not just a question of the courage of the protesters, and they are being brave, it's the situation is deteriorating very, very rapidly indeed. And the authorities can see that not only the nitty-gritty detail for their own population is getting worse, but they can see that the overall banking collapse is getting worse. So one way or another, the authorities are showing signs of, well, viciousness is the prelude to what will be panic, and I'm afraid with panic will come irresponsible violence.
Political analyst from London, Mr. Rodney Shakespeare, many thanks for your time, sir.
All right, so there are some things going on in this country we definitely need to be aware of. We've got protesters in the streets. We've got 18,000 troops about to come back before the end of this month. We have a National Defense Authorization Act, which has declared the United States a battlefield. And now we have all these stories which talk of the concerns of utilizing this newfound power that Washington has given itself to actually go out and have the troops police the American citizens and carry them off to detainment camps. Something very serious we need to pay attention to. Now, the thing that would get the monkey wrench that would get in and really screw everything up, that's the American soldiers. The American troops who have sworn to protect this country against all enemies, foreign and domestic, they need to stand up, and they need to stand by their oaths. They need to understand that if they're at one part of the country and they're trying to detain citizens, somebody may be in their home detaining their family while they're out detaining others. And they need to realize that they did not go into the military to fight against their own people. Their mothers, their fathers, their brothers, their sisters, aunts, uncles, relatives, friends. That's not what the United States military is about. And there are good men and women in the military, and we're going to really need them to be even better. We're going to need them to stand up to their oaths and to stand up against the corruption that is out there. Because any military personnel worth his salt will know it is unconstitutional for them to violate the Constitution of the United States and to go according to these new policies and bills that are being put in place. So we're going to see what's happened. We're going to see how it's going to unfold. And certainly this is going to be a test for the United States military to see if they really do have integrity or if they really are just puppets being pushed around without any ability to say what they want to say. I think our U.S. military is a bit more stronger than that. I think that they are going to step up. We just need to be hopeful that that is actually what's going to happen. But mark my words, the next couple of months are going to be quite interesting. There's going to be a lot of tension. We're going to really need to be on our toes to pay attention to what's going on. Now, let's clear these out here. All right, we're going to look at Newt Gingrich here for a moment. In the video below, we get a better idea of what GOP frontrunner thinks of the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. During a question and answer session at C-SPAN Book Review in Huntington, New York, Gingrich said he would allow the FBI to violate Fourth Amendment and permit it to aggressively trash the civil liberties of Americans the government designates as terrorists. Listen to what he has to say.
I think we have one more question. Yes, ma'am. Why have we not been hit by since 9/11, which is a good question. My first answer is I honestly don't know. I would have expected another attack, and I particularly thought, I was very, very worried and talked to the administration when we had the sniper attacks, because the sniper attacks were psychologically so frightening to the average person because of their randomness, that I thought, I was amazed that the bad guys didn't figure out how to send 10 or 12 sniper teams. I think there are a couple things, though, that we tend not. This is, by the way, one of the great tragedies of the Bush administration. The more successful they've been at intercepting and stopping bad guys, the less proof there is that we're in danger. And therefore, the better they've done at making sure there isn't an attack, the easier it is to say, well, there was never going to be an attack anyway. And it's almost like they should every once in a while have allowed an attack to get through just to remind us. But I mean, think about the psychology. You know, why did we wrap up so many people? Well, because we wiretapped. And again, I'm going to be a little controversial. I would divide the FBI into two agencies. I would have an anti-domestic crime FBI, which was very cautious, very respectful of civil liberties. You were innocent until proven guilty. And I would have a small but very aggressive anti-terrorism agency. And I would frankly give them extraordinary ability to eavesdrop. And my first advice to civil libertarians is simple. Don't plot with terrorists.
Okay, I know people laughed and they thought he was all cute. First of all, why wasn't there another attack since 9/11? Because 9/11 was a false flag event done by the American administration upon its own country. That's why there wasn't a second attack. There wasn't an Al-Qaeda that was out there attacking. Al-Qaeda is a database. Okay? The whole thing was made up, faked, for the benefit of the American people. Now, to that degree, it was somewhat of a victory for the Bush administration because they got to put the Patriot Act in place. That is what they had in mind. And now you have this man who is running for the president, which the mainstream, the establishment is saying that this is their guy. This guy wants to go and infringe upon the liberties of all Americans and have a task force that's going to go out there, a terrorism task force that is going to look for domestic terrorists. And they say, oh, well, they'll be careful not to trash their liberties. Really? Are they so careful about not trashing their liberties now? Just look at what's going on at any of these Occupy movements, and you tell me if these police officers are making sure not to trample over people's liberties. They're trampling over them left and right. Here you got a guy who's flip-flopped, has lied, running for the president, and anybody who is bought into his line of BS isn't paying attention to what he's going about doing. Now, to remind you of some things, here is 60 seconds from one of the latest Ron Paul ads on Newt Gingrich.
If you want to put people in jail, let's look at the politicians who created the environment, the politicians who profited from the environment,
Newt Gingrich on the defense for taking $1.5 million.
After he left Congress, Freddie Mac paid Gingrich at least
$1.6 million.
$1.6 million, some of it just before the housing market collapsed.
A think tank founded by Newt Gingrich collected at least $37 million from major healthcare companies. The group supports individual mandates.
Newt Gingrich renewed his support for an individual mandate, a key tenet of President Obama's healthcare law.
Support for an individual mandate? Folks, don't ask me to explain this.
Everything that Gingrich railed against when he was in the House, he went the other way when he got paid to go the other way.
He's demonstrating himself to be the very essence of the Washington insiders.
It's about serial hypocrisy.
Now, folks, you're about to be lied to again. Obama slid one by Americans. Okay, now you're about to get another guy who's going to try to slide one by Americans. The question is, are you going to be fooled again? It appears that if you listen to the mainstream media, you will be, because the mainstream media is in the business of fooling you. They apparently don't care really what happens. The Megyn Kellys and the Bill O'Reillys and the Rachel Maddows and those people don't really care. They act like they do, but if they really cared, they wouldn't make some of the comments that they make. They wouldn't lie the way that they lie. And then it's how ironic to watch someone like Bill O'Reilly talking as if they are the honest ones. He is the one where the spin stops there. Spin doesn't stop there. The spin goes round and round right there. The lies that happen from the mainstream is just incredible. Here is the latest poll that is out. This is U.S. News. It's dated today. According to this poll, Ron Paul, 62.51%. Mitt Romney, second, with 11.91%. Rick third would take us to Gary Johnson at 6.89%. Newt Gingrich, or Herman Cain, who's not even in anymore, at 5.8%. Newt Gingrich at 5.6%. Followed by John Huntsman, Michelle Bachmann, Rick Perry, and then Rick Santorum. This is not what the mainstream is showing you. But this is U.S. News and World Report dated Wednesday, December 7th, 2011. Look where Ron Paul is. Now you watch the news and watch the mainstream and see how they're portraying him. They're not going to tell you about this poll. They don't want you to know what Ron Paul is doing because they are all afraid of Ron Paul. Ron Paul says the C word, Constitution. They don't like that because in Washington, they don't like the Constitution. They don't care for what the Founding Fathers put in place. They want to destroy that. We need somebody who's a champion of the Constitution. That is what Ron Paul is doing. He's a champion for the Constitution. We need that now more than ever because the liberties are being pulled away, the Constitution is being destroyed, and now they're bringing troops to America under a new act that is now proposed that the United States is a battleground. If there's ever a time that there's a champion for the Constitution needed, it is right now. Now, one good thing about the champions for the Constitution is every single one of you out there can be a champion for the Constitution because it's not limited to military personnel, it's limited to Americans. It extends to all Americans. So you can stand up to protect and defend the Constitution for all enemies, foreign and domestic. That means those in the administration, the Obamas, the Bushes, those are the enemies who are against the American people. Quit siding with the enemies. Stand up for the American people. That's really what we're going to have to do if we're going to get through these times. All right, let's jump to our meditation. Let's get past all of these challenges we're going on now and put ourselves in a clear state of mind where we can find the ways to move past all of this. So let's close our eyes. Go into that quiet space inside of you. And as you go inside that quiet space inside of you, I want you to listen very carefully Listen for the voice of truth. It might be buried underneath all sorts of other lies and things that make their way into our conscious every day as the radio waves and the television waves bounce around through the air. But if you listen carefully, you'll find there's that voice of truth inside. And as you understand and find that voice of truth, there are no doubts that it's the truth, because you know. Because the truth sounds different than the lies. It feels different than the lies. And it is different than the lies. And as you find that truth, honor that part of you that is clear enough to see and understand that truth. Let's make sure all the chakras are open, because these are the energy centers that we use to perceive the energies of life. And if our energy centers are blocked or not activated properly, we're not receiving all that we could truly receive. So the bottom of the spine, you got the red color chakra. Raise that energy up to the chakra above it. Imagine the color orange. From the orange color chakra, raise the energy above it to just below the rib cage. Imagine the color yellow. Raise the energy then up there to the heart chakra and imagine the color green. Raise the energy up to the throat. Imagine the color blue. On up to the third eye. Imagine the color violet. And finally to the crown chakra, the top of your head. Imagine the color indigo, and the light continues onward. Imagine each one of these energy centers, these chakras, they're little vortexes of energy. Imagine the energy going in multiple directions, counterclockwise and clockwise. Because these are little vortexes, little portals of energy that connect you multidimensionally to the universe and beyond. And with all your chakras activated, this allows you to clearly interpret the energies coming your way. And with a clear space, we're able to decipher the truth from the lies. We're able to understand the voice of truth and to dismiss the voice of lies. And as we understand more and more of truth, and we share this truth with others, we find that truth becomes something much more honored in the world we live in. So imagine truth spreading from person to person. And imagine like a little light bulb going on above their head, representing the light of truth that they are now experiencing. And as you look around, see the light of truth shining brightly around everyone. And in this truth, and in the light of truth, darkness dissipates. The lies go away. And as the lies dissipate and the truths are revealed, the ability to fix the problems is right in front of us. Because now we can truly see clearly what it is that needs to be done to make the world that we want to create, the world that the great Creator has designed for all of us. Let's imagine sending love all around the planet right now, to everyone around the planet, because misguided as some may be, all are children of God. And with love, the opportunity for them to get back on the truth and on the path of truth exists. So send out love to all, friends, relatives, loved ones, and to the enemies, that they might open their minds to the clarity and the truth of life. Let us pray that all leaders around the world understand the true divinity that has been expressed down in life and honor that divinity by standing on the pillar of truth and sharing truths with the people of the world, resisting the lies. Let's just think a good thought for everybody around the planet for today. Wish everybody a good day all around the world. And with that, let's bring our energy and attention back to the present moment, and we'll do so on the count of 3. 3, coming back to the present moment filled with confidence. 2, coming back to the present moment filled with faith. And 1, coming back to the present moment happy, healthy, and whole. Happy, healthy, and whole. Open your eyes. That is our show, our prayer, our meditation. Thank you again for being here, listening, participating. It's always a pleasure each and every day. For Dirk Bradshaw, my name's Josh Poet. I'll be back again tomorrow with more news and information. Till then, be safe. Spread the word with people out there. Let them know what's going on in the world. It's all our responsibility, and the more that we take, the better we're going to make this a better planet. Remember, we're all in this together. We'll all get through it. We just have to learn to work together. Everything will be cool. I'm out of here. Peace. Talk to you tomorrow.